My movie is Milk, directed by Gus Van Sant and written by Dustin Lance Black. This movie is a biography of Harvey Milk, who was a gay activist in the 1970s who became the first openly gay man to be elected to the Board of Supervisors of San Francisco. To begin with, this movie actually starts off with a black and white scene that seems to be from maybe the 50s or the 60s. The music playing gets progressively more dramatic. It's a scene of just police arresting all of these people for no apparent reason, and then it shows a bunch of headlines saying, well, it's really just expressing the conflict between the police and the homosexuals of the time. This adds background to the story, and it really adds the dramatic effect of the movie. This is an example of cinematography that the director uses. Another example would be the signs and the setup of the whole movie. The signs are actually redesigned in order to make it look more authentic, in order to make them look more like they're really in the 70s. Same with the shops. Castro Camera was a shop that Harvey Milk actually opened up with Scott Smith back in 1973 when he moved to San Francisco from New York. And this shop actually looked just like the shop that he opened up. This added to the historical accuracy and the authenticity of the movie. Another example of the cinematography would be the reflection of the whistle that was dropped by murdered victim Robert Hillsborough. He was stabbed 15 times. The camera actually focuses in on the reflection of the whistle, which gives a false realities sort of thing, because it shows the cop taking care of the body, and in reality the cop was actually pretty responsible for the death of this man. During this time, cops really didn't care too much about the homosexuals, and they didn't do much to stop all of these hate crimes that were going on. That is actually the reason why they had these whistles, was because they knew that if they blew these whistles, then someone would come and help them. And cops really just did nothing to help them at all. Another example of cinematography would be the candle lights. At the end of the movie, when Dianne Feinstein, she announces the death of Harvey Milk, at least 30,000 people come and march down the street, each with a candle in hand, and the camera just focuses in on all of these people and all of the lights, and it just really gives you a good representation of how many people, how many lives that Harvey Milk actually affected just with his campaign. All these supporters, all these people who were just devastated by his death. It really adds a tragic feel and the dramatic and just the sadness to the scene, and that really adds to the cinematography. And another example would be the different squares that happen. They just pop up all over the screen when Cleve calls everyone, telling them to prepare to march. This is an earlier scene in the movie, and it set up almost like the Brady Bunch, where it's just the little squares everywhere. And this just shows how many people he really reached out to, how big of an effect he actually had on this campaign. This brings us into the film style, the different camera views, such as with the whistle, and another example would be the mirror in Mayor McConey's office. When Dan White walks through, you just see him walking through the mirror, and this gives another false reality type of sense, because he actually has intentions of murdering the mayor, and you don't see that. All you see is the mayor's obliviousness. Another example would be at the party. There is camera views from all over. All you see is people laughing and dancing and having a good time, and that just makes it seem a lot more uplifting. the music playing is actually really uplifting and happy because Harvey is actually turning 48. He seems like he's going to live for a long time. He finally has a good sense that things are going well for him. The music used is really big in this movie, from scenes like the party to scenes where he is actually walking down the road thinking that someone's following him. He's looking over his shoulder constantly. He keeps looking behind him. He has this worried look on his face, and the music gets tragic and more dramatic, and it really adds to the suspense of the scene. I would say that opera is also a significant part of this movie because Harvey really shows that he enjoys opera. He actually goes to an opera towards the end of the film, and he watches a dramatic death scene. This could be a symbol that foreshadows his death. Earlier in the movie, he also says that he's not going to live till 50. He has all these feelings, I guess you could say, that he's really gonna be assassinated, which is probably why he made the assassination tape when he did. And finally, real footage is used to create an effect in this film as well. When Dianne Feinstein announces his death, you see the reaction of all these real people, and it really adds to the historical accuracy of the film, and it really adds to the authenticity of it, and how it really affected all these real people. And the film really did a good job at representing this and showing all how really big of a tragedy it really was. In my opinion, the casting and the characters in this film really helped make it what it is. Starting with Harvey Milk, he was played by actor Sean Penn. Sean actually came from a Jewish background, just like Harvey. He had Jewish grandparents, and Harvey had Jewish parents. For this reason, I believe that Sean actually resembled Harvey in a way. They had similar noses, similar facial structures. They had to look right, down to the last little hair flip. Sean was also known for his democratic political and social activism. I think that also made him a good fit for this role. In 2009, he won an Academy Award for Best Actor for his role in Milk. And that is no surprise considering how well he did. He was funny and witty when he needed to be, and then at other points he was really serious. And in one scene in particular, when Harvey was walking down the road and he was really scared because it seemed like someone was following him, he kept looking over his shoulder, and just the way that Sean portrayed this, he really seemed worried. He had a concerned look on his face. He really looked scared. He just really did a good job in making this scene more dramatic. Another scene is when he is on stage giving a speech. He just seems really concerned with the issue. He seems really into it. And just watching this speech is almost as if you're really watching Harvey Milk giving a speech. And that's just amazing. And that's what makes this movie so powerful, and really, it really makes it inspiring for people, because it's just the historical accuracy and how well the actors portray their characters. Next would be Scott Smith by James Franco. James Franco is known for his comedy roles, such as in Pineapple Express or This Is the End, which makes it really amazing that he did so well in such a dramatic role. He actually won the Independent Spirit Award for Best Supporting Actor. One thing about this role is that it was really hard for him to find information about Scott Smith, until finally he found someone who had an interview with him, and he found out that he was actually this really southern, free-spirited character. And I believe that James did a really good job at this, because from every last scene to where he was annoyed with Harvey's activism to when he actually leaves him, he just seems so convinced in his roles. He makes it more dramatic. He shows his emotions. And one thing that's really important about his character is that he brings out Harvey's personal life. And he makes each scene with Harvey more passionate, and he shows the emotion and personal life of Harvey. Okay, and from this, Dan White is the man who actually kills Harvey. He is played by Josh Brolin. I think that Dan overall did a pretty good job, except for he could have been more angry. He could have showed more emotion towards Harvey to show how he really felt. Maybe when he was in the scene where he was acting drunk and actually letting out his emotion, he could have seemed more angry towards Harvey. But overall, I think that also added to the element of surprise, because to people who don't know the story, they might have been really surprised that Dan White was the one to actually kill Harvey. And so overall, I believe that Dan did a good job in his role as well. Emile Hirsch played Cleve Jones. Harvey mentors him throughout the film. And the one thing that's interesting about Cleve Jones is that he is the only character to really represent a homosexual in a stereotypical sort of way. The way he walks, the way he holds his arms up and crosses his legs, he actually shows himself to be like the stereotypical homosexual. He's sassy. His character really just seems like uninterested in this whole bourgeois scene of politics and all of that, and he really represents the 70s and the rebels and the hippies in the 70s. Even though he was gay, he just wasn't really interested in helping the movement against it. And I think he really represents how Harvey didn't have a lot of followers at first. A lot of people seemed uninterested, and then as the movement went along, he eventually became a really big part of the campaign and really helped out Harvey. And so that just really shows how his campaign went along and how people became more involved and how he got followers just by the minute. And so Cleve is a very important character, and I think that Emile Hirsch did a really good job at portraying Cleve, because he just, the sassiness and just the whole attitude of his character, he just does it so well. The last one is Jack Lira, who is played by Diego Luna. He actually brings out the passion in Harvey as well. He really seems like a hopeless romantic. He doesn't care too much about politics, and he hangs himself, which really adds to the stress of Harvey Milk, which makes his character important as well. He shows his emotion by locking himself in a closet. He cries when Harvey comes home late. He expects him to be cheating. And I think these scenes really help show his character. And I think that Diego really does a good job at this by really seeming he seems really convinced in his role, and just the way he cries and shows his emotions, and all of this adds to his overall portrayal of his character. So overall, I believe all of these actors did a really good job at portraying their characters and